Okay, so in this module, we're gonna cover something that is so crucial to like literally everything that you do, all the connections that you make, like all the friendships you have, all the people that you manage, all the people that you work with, like all the relationships you have personally and professionally. Everything comes down to this one concept. And I remember, like my mom, she oh my god, I hate, but like she just like when you don't understand this concept, it can like eat away and destroy your relationships and just crush them, which is so awful. So let's go over to the computer and let's break it down because it's so huge. So it's this concept of criticism. Criticism, just like one of the worst things you can have in your life, because people don't want to be criticized, and that's why like a lot of times when you look at people, this idea that like you need to take responsibility for yourself and be your own person, a lot of times people have trouble criticizing themselves, and they don't want to criticize themselves, and so they're living in this bubble where they never embrace their problems. And so like personally, it's super important that you let criticism through of yourself, and that you self-reflect and you look at what you're doing, right? And you take that recording of yourself or that third person view or that unbiased opinion and look at exactly what you're doing, and say, look, is there something that needs to change here? And so you always kind of want to be like looking at your actions and sort of like carefully criticizing yourself. But with other people, like other people hate to be criticized. Like you probably don't like to be criticized, right? If you're your own person or if you're with other people, like people just don't want to be criticized, and it sucks. And so criticism, it's just like totally futile. Because why? Because it puts a person on the defensive. And when people are defensive, they're just shut off. It's like you can't grow and connect and learn with someone who's defensive. You just cannot expand when you're defensive. Like think about you're defending yourself against like oral arguments, people that are attacking your opinions or your viewpoints. Like you're not gonna be open to listening to that person. And criticism is so dangerous because like you're defending your pride, right? You're defending your face, you're defending your public like perspective when people think about you. And so like if you're defensive and you're trying to save your pride, like it's not gonna let you, you're not gonna like listen to people, right? You're gonna strive to justify yourself. And so like it's the exact same process. If you criticize somebody else, they're gonna try to justify themselves, and they're gonna try to figure out reasons why like they're right and they're succeeding and they're important, and they're gonna say, look, you know what, I'm gonna justify this with whatever reason possible. And this is why like if you look at people, oh my god, they're like all over the internet, they're like trying to like criticize like traditional religion or say that like science and facts are better than everything else. Like when you come right at somebody and you're trying to criticize their viewpoints, and you're trying to argue with them, and you're trying to be like, you're wrong, this is why you're wrong, like people are going to justify themselves and they're gonna get defensive. And in the long term, there is no way possible that you're gonna have like a long-term lasting impact on somebody by trying to force a viewpoint or force a perspective on them through criticism. Criticism, it just will not work. It will like get fundamentally blocked by their like defense mechanisms and their personalities and their mind, and it will, all the facts and all the figures you throw at them will be forced away, right? And we're gonna develop this concept so much more throughout this book, but like this person, they need to have the epiphany in their mind. They need to realize themselves that what you're saying is the truth and not have it forced onto them, not have criticism pushed into their mind, because they'll just push it right back out and find some bogus way to defend what they're saying. And this is true for all aspects of life and for all arguments. People that think the earth is flat, like if you go directly criticize them, they're not gonna freaking listen. You need to be a little bit more gentle, and criticism and arguments alone are just gonna lead to justification, and they do not work whatsoever. And this leads into the concept that's so powerful. You guys know B.F. Skinner, maybe you don't know B.F. Skinner, like one of the biggest psychologists ever. And it's this idea of, negative conditioning versus positive conditioning. And like negative conditioning, right, is criticism. So criticism is super negative, right? It's like literally saying, you're wrong, this is why you're wrong, right? And it's this idea that like, it's basically like punishment, and you're punishing people, and it's terrible place to be. And then he's done this study on rats and on animals, and it's done this comparison between like criticism and positivity, right? And positive conditioning and like rewarding somebody, and like if you give a rat like a Kit Kat, like after they go through and do something really well, and they have success, they have growth, they have whatever it is that you want them to do, like they do it, and you give them a positive reward, that's so much more effective than like shocking them if they don't succeed, or like just pushing them out of their world, or like hurting them if they do the wrong thing. Because like, just like when we were working at Subway, right, and we would always get yelled at all the time. Like, yelling is so bad. Yelling literally destroys relationships and crushes individuals because it's negative criticism and it's negative conditioning. And because of that, it ruins the connection that you have with others, and it ruins the connection you have with yourself, because negativity is just not as effective as positivity. I remember I had this sociology class, and we were studying Skinner and conditioning, and our teacher, he had us do like this experiment, right, where we like had a desire that we wanted, and so like I would drive home every day, and we'd get home in the car, and my brother, you know, we have like this kind of like longish driveway, and there'd be like a mailbox, right, and I would always like want my brother to get the mail, because it's like I have to, like, I'll go park the car, and it's kind of like a farish walk, and it's just a lot easier, you know, the other person gets the mail, and so like I would like ask him to get the mail. Like, originally it was tough because like he didn't want to get the mail, and so I tried like negative conditioning. I tried yelling at him. I tried like pleading with him. I tried saying, "You have to get the mail." Like, that doesn't work. Can't criticize people and say you're being lazy if you don't get the mail, or you're doing the wrong thing. You need to do what? You need to come up with that positive thing that's going to draw them to get the mail. And so like I would ask him to get the mail. Maybe like once a week he would get the mail. And so like the one time he got the mail, I gave him like this, what did I give him? I gave him like a high five. I gave him a super positive like connection, and said, you know, great job, that's awesome, thanks so much for getting the mail. And I gave him a big hug. A couple of times I gave him a little piece of candy because I had some candy. And I just did like all these really positive things to make him associate, you know, getting the mail with getting rewarded and having happiness and being happy. And so as soon as that happened, he was like constantly asking to get the mail over and over and over again. Like, he would like stop me and say, I want to get the mail, I want to get the mail, I want the mail. He got so excited about getting the mail because he knew it would lead to a positive outcome, not because he wanted to avoid a negative one. People, like, you can't motivate them with negativity. You can't motivate them with hurtful actions. You need to motivate them with positive and happiness and growth. And if you do that, they're going to develop what? They're going to develop an internal desire to do what you want to do. And at the beginning, you have to care that they do it, but not that much. And you have to understand that like whatever you do, it's going to have an impact, but it takes time, right? This took like probably 2 months to get him to constantly get the mail. And so you just have to be patient with the process and let it happen. And the instant that you do that, like everything changes, and it's all so radically different, because you're going through the positive process. And like, people, they absolutely hate being condemned, and they hate criticism, but they have a complete and total thirst for approval. Like, approval makes them so happy. And so if you can give somebody approval, you can give them positivity, if you can give them like a reason to do what you desire for them to do, like, they're gonna freaking want to do it. It's gonna be like their idea. They're gonna say, oh, this is such a great thing for me to do, I can't wait to do it. And it'll change everything for them, but you're focusing on like the positive reasons and not avoiding pain. Because avoiding pain, like, it's really powerful. And a lot of people, they make decisions to avoid pain. And you know, you know, with marketing and sales, like, you want to make people like avoid pain, right? But as you're trying to like build these deep, intimate relationships, and you're trying to really connect with people, it's radically more important that you focus on positivity and you focus on reward than pain, right? And that reward is naturally going to help them avoid pain, because they're going to get towards this place in their life where they're getting exactly what they want. Because what they want, you know, it's up here, right? And so they're starting at ground zero, right? And your goal is to help ascend them and help grow them with this positive energy, with this positive reward and this growth. And that's gonna make them so much happier to serve you and to work with you and to come like on board and do whatever team group projects you want, ascend to this next level of growth and development over and over again. Because like, they get rewarded constantly. There's constantly happiness, constantly connection, constantly collaboration, constantly growth. And so they're naturally gonna want to ascend up to like that next level where they're like, oh my god, this is the coolest thing ever, because they have that intimate and deep connection with you that makes them so happy, positive, and excited throughout like all aspects of their life. And that all comes when you focus on positivity, which is so important, because like criticism and like this stuff right here, like where you're being negative, it's gonna lead to what? It's gonna lead to resentment. You know, you don't want to be resented. It's gonna lead to demoralization, right? You're gonna demoralize people. You don't want to demoralize people. Like, that's terrible, right? You don't, like, that's awful, right? You don't want any of that. And it doesn't matter if it's employees, if it's family members, or if it's friends. Like, if you can't connect with people using correct and positive growth and positivity. And you like, it's gonna crush those relationships and destroy the potential in them, which is just, it's awful. And he tells this story about George Johnson, and he, is responsible for making sure that everybody on the construction site wears a hard hat. And it's this big construction site. He's a construction manager. You got all these workers, right? And for one reason or another, these guys, they just aren't a huge fan of their hard hats. And so they'll have them and they'll hold them and they'll have them sort of by their side, but they don't really want to wear them. And so they're at like this giant construction site and they're building huge buildings and there's like cranes everywhere. And so the chance of something falling, like it could happen, right? And it could really, really, really hurt them. And so like, they kind of like need to have their hard hats, right? And so you have this guy come in and he's managing everybody. And at the beginning, what he would do is he would like force people to wear their hard hats. And he would say, you must wear your hard hat. This is so important. This is the safety. This is the basis. And if you don't wear your hard hat, you're gonna get in trouble and you're gonna get reported if you don't have your hard hat on. And he used what? He used his position of authority, and he used like threats and regulations to force them to comply. And that was the goal, right? The goal was to have them comply with the rule and wear their hard hat. He would get, a sullen acceptance, and they would be like super regretful and say, okay, yeah, we'll put our hard hats on, whatever. And then as soon as he left, these guys would freaking throw their hats on the ground like nobody's business, right? And they would not actually change their behavior and their actions. And they would go back to the way they were before, the exact same way they were, right? I really don't want to have like that toolbar show because it shows like the date and the time, and that's just not something that I want like in the course. So let's cut out that last section. I'll do it again just so it doesn't show the toolbar. And they went back to their old ways because they had like this temptation, right? To do what they wanted and to be independent, and they didn't really have like a reason to change. They didn't have a motivation, and so that was this guy's problem. Is he wasn't like authority, regulations, rules, like those make people comply in the short term. But if you can't like internally show these guys why they should change it and make them understand like your point of view, or make them happy to do what you want them to do, then they're not going to do what you want them to do over and over and over and over in the long term. Like you can't force them to change. And so he decided to try a different approach. And next time he saw these guys without a hard hat, instead of coming at them and saying, oh, you're terrible, I can't believe you're doing this, he changed. And he still had the same goal of getting them to comply and do what they're supposed to do and wear these hats. But he asked them, instead of like saying, oh, go wear your hats, he said, hey, your hats, are they uncomfortable? And do they fit right? And he asked them these questions, right, about their point of view and about their perspective and about what they liked. These questions, right, are the best way to do what? They get inside of the minds of the people that he's trying to connect with. And he can like connect with them so that like they understand where he's coming from, and he can understand their perspective. And so these questions are so powerful because it allows them to talk about themselves, right? And that's like this huge key concept that like you want other people to talk about themselves. And the instant that you can let that happen, and the instant you can sort of understand like what they're doing and why they're doing it, it fundamentally changes the relationship and the connection that you have with them, because like they build rapport with you and they have a connection with you now, which is so powerful. And they're using, he used a pleasant voice, used a pleasant tone, and he said he just gently reminded them that the hat was designed to protect them from injury, and he suggested that it was always worn on the job. He didn't force them. See, he cared, but not that much, and he just like walked away. And the result of asking them pleasantly and reminding them pleasantly that it's designed to protect them, and genuinely being interested in them and saying, what is really holding you back from wearing this hat? The instant that happened, the people that follow the rules, the compliance, like skyrocketed. And it's just so powerful, and it changed absolutely everything for him, for this guy, and for the people that worked for him, because he was able to focus so deeply and so intently on connecting with those that he worked for, because he realized that like the way he was gonna have the biggest impact, it was through positive positive connections and positive ways of approaching tough situations, right? So this is like a tough situation, and so by focusing on this positivity and getting the approval of people who worked with and moving sort of like on this path where he's focusing on the collective benefit of the group, not just himself, right? Not just criticizing, but he's actually thinking about like, how can I connect with people I'm working with and get on the same level. He didn't like use his authority when he had success. When he had success, he brought himself down and he elevated these workers by saying, hey, you're really important, and I'm gonna ask questions about, what's going on in your life and why maybe you're following this rule or you're not following this rule, and I wanna know exactly what's going on with you. And the instant he like took an interest in the other person, and he like cared about and he put them up on this pedestal above him and brought their interests above his own, and then just gently suggested that they do what he wanted them to do, the success and the impact just skyrocketed. And it was so powerful because he wasn't attacking them. He wasn't making them defensive or forcing them to do things. But instead he was giving this internal transformation, this epiphany. It made them realize that like, hey, maybe I should just wear my hard hat, because why not? Boss is nice, people are happy, everybody's connected. And when positivity spreads, like positivity is magnetic and it will spread to those around you. And when positivity spreads to those around you, it changes absolutely freaking everything, because everybody's on the same page and everyone wants to succeed and grow together as a collective group to have the impact and the significance they desire. So ridiculously powerful content here, and it really all changes the instant that you can focus, step back, sort of like take that temporary loss of yourself and temporarily chill out, and then give these guys everything that they want and that they desire, and just give them a feeling of significance and of importance. Because that's what everybody wants, right? Everyone wants to feel important. And by just giving these guys a little bit more attention, maybe it took like freaking an extra 20% of his time versus yelling at him, yelling at everybody versus, being a little bit compassionate and then gently suggesting things. And yet that little teeny investment of extra time, it literally like, he didn't have any results. He was at like 0 and it brought him to 100. And so everything comes when you just put in that little extra bonus effort that's gonna have the biggest long-term impact on the work that you do, which is so powerful. So the goal, right, is to put in that effort and to have those long-term results and have those achievements. They all stem from this connection that you have with people that you're working with, which is so powerful. So thank you guys so much for making it through this module. Hope you got a ton of value from it. Go out there, apply it, absolutely crush it, and I will see you in the next module. Thank you so much. Bye.